Howdy rock buds and all my minimalist buds. This video is about making moccasins. As you may know, I go barefoot most of the year, but in wintertime I want something on my feet that's as close to barefoot as I can, and that's moccasins. So I'm going to put up some moccasin making videos just in case you want to make some moccasins for wintertime too. This first moccasin type is a very super simple kind of moccasin that's easy to make. The hard part with any moccasin is the laying out the pattern and the design of it. This design is fairly easy, and so it's the first one that I'm going to do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If so, please subscribe. Thank you so much to all my subscribers. Here we go. Moccasin making number 1. I had to name the style of these moccasins. I guess I would call them modified plains Indian moccasins, but they're really just a design that I came up with based on everything that I've learned from other folks. To me, the hardest part of moccasins is the pattern, and these moccasins have a very easy pattern to make. So let's get started. But first, let's talk about what you need to make moccasins. You need leather, and this Amazon link for leather is the best leather that I've found. It's used as upholstery for couches and sofas, so it's super strong. For $23.95, you can make at least 2 pairs of moccasins with this amount, maybe 3. And that's another beauty of this kind of design. It uses small pieces, so you can use scraps. As long as they're a little bit bigger than your foot, you're in good shape. Here's some good needle and thread that you can get on Amazon to make your moccasins. And this is a watch band hole puncher. It is an absolute must. It will make your job 10 times easier. It's only $8 or so, so I highly recommend getting this. And some good glue is helpful. This is the glue I use, and I use it to coat the bottoms, the soles of my moccasins on the outside, and seal the seams. But you don't have to have glue if you don't want to, and really any glue, Elmer's glue would probably do. Okay, to get started, you lay down a piece of leather and trace the outline of your foot on it. Make sure there's extra leather all the way around your foot pattern. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Hey guys, and notice that I'm wearing a thick sock when I'm doing the tracing. You should do that too. Wear maybe the thickest sock you have. That way it will guarantee that this moccasin will fit and not be too tight. Next, use your index finger and go all the way around your foot pattern and widen the whole pattern out by the width of your index finger. This is all fast speed, but you can slow this video down if you need to. Now grab your scissors and cut it out. Sometimes a kitty helps. Okay, there are 2 parts to the moccasin, and this is going to be the sole of the moccasin, and you get to decide whether you want the shiny side on the outside or the rough side on the outside. I always have the rough side on the outside of the sole and on the outside of the upper. Okay, now we're making the upper part of the moccasin is exactly like the sole except for the heel part, and you'll get to see what I mean. So keep watching. See how I'm laying down my fingers at the bottom of the moccasin? So you just come straight out that far, 3 fingers or 4 fingers, either one, and extend it. You give the heel a kind of a tail there. It is actually going to become the heel of the moccasin. And then you cut that out. So here we have the sole on the left and the upper on the right. And for my moccasin, the shiny part of the sole is up, and the rough part of the upper is up. But we are going to do almost all the moccasin sewing with the moccasin inside out. So be careful to turn your moccasin pieces inside out before you begin sewing. See these little clips that I'm using to hold the two pieces together? Obviously you can get them on Amazon, and get the little bitty ones. They work the best. And just here I'm making sure that both pieces are about the same size. You don't have to do this, but I like to do it just to get them as quote-unquote perfect as possible. So now I'm cutting the extra off the moccasin upper just to make it match the sole a little bit better. Okay, so here are my two pieces, and this is cut out as a left foot moccasin. That's outside out right there. But to sew it, I've got to flip them over and turn it inside out, just like this. So once again, with the moccasin inside out, I'm using those little clips to clip it together in preparation for sewing. Those little clips help a bunch. Okay, so getting ready to sew, I'm going to punch some holes and sew and punch some holes and sew. And in this video, it looks like the rough side is out. That's because I got dyslexic and sewed the sucker up, and then I had to take it all apart and fix it the right way. So don't pretend that that black is the shiny side, okay? You can punch your holes about 1/4 inch apart from each other, or maybe just a little bit, but definitely less than 1/2 inch. I double the thread when I sew moccasins. That makes them extra strong. And this is the kind of thread I use, but the kind that I showed you on Amazon is about as good. It's just less and it's cheaper. I use the in and out stitch to sew moccasins, and I double it. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. You go in, out, in, out, in, out. And then when you get it done that way, you turn around and go back the other way, in, out, in, out, in, out. That makes the moccasin super strong. Okay, here's what I mean by in-out stitch. In, out, and that's going to be doubled eventually. I don't know if I show doubling it on this video, but you should double it. It's extra work, but it's well worth doing. When I come back to do the doubling of the in and out stitch, you'll see that the empty spaces where there's no stitching will be filled with stitching. That's what I mean by in and out doubled. I don't mean you do the same thing twice. You overlap, if that makes any sense. You'll see later on exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, here you can see the in and out stitch ×1, and I haven't finished it all the way around, but you've got to cut a slit in the upper so that your foot will fit in there, and that's what we're doing here. I'm just rough estimating it from the tip to my wrist like that, and then I'm just going to cut right down the middle of the upper. This slit also enables us to go ahead and sew the heel part on the moccasin, and later on I'm going to make that slit even longer. Now I'm going to clip that one of those tabs that was created by the center slit all around the heel, like so. These clips help that a lot too. And then I'm just going to sew that with the in and out stitch. Continue the in and out stitch and sew that. Okay, there's that side. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the other side until the two pieces meet at the back of the heel. Okay, there they are. And then I'm going to sew those two pieces together to form the vertical part of the heel. Okay, let's try it on in the inside out position and see how much longer we have to make that slit so that my foot can get in there. Looks like I need to cut it a little bit more. Okay, so roughly speaking, the cut comes down toward the toe about the distance from the tip of your middle finger to your knuckles on your hand, plus or minus. But it's always good to fit it. Now it's time to make the moccasin tongue, and here I'm using a piece of scrap leather to do that. The moccasin tongue is a square of leather, and it's about the width of your hand. You can make it bigger or smaller, but I usually do it about the width of my hand like this in both directions. And I just rough estimate it, cut it out, and then square it up, as you'll see pretty soon. The chipmunks are restless. Now I'm just squaring up the tongue shape, doing that by eye. And then after I get it squared up, I'll make another tongue for the other moccasin based on, and using this one as a pattern. Now we're going to use those clips to attach the tongue and then sew the tongue in. And here again, we're going to use the in and out stitch times 2. And notice that since we're sewing this moccasin wrong side out, I'm using the shiny side of the tongue here on the outside, so that when I turn this thing back right side out, it'll be the rough side of the tongue that shows up. Hope that makes sense. Couple of things here real quick. First, you can see that the upper and the sole are sewed together with only in and out stitch times 1. I'll go back and double that and fill in all those empty spaces so that I'll have in and out times 2. And matter of fact, everything that you sew should be in and out times 2. And now I'm sewing the other side of the tongue. And remember, don't sew the opposite side of the tongue to the moccasin on the other side. You sew the adjacent side so that the tongue forms kind of a diamond shape. And when you're finished stitching, remember just to tie kind of a knot to end the stitch so it won't come undone. Let's turn this baby right side out and see how she fits so far. Looks really good, I think, but the heel is way too loose. And so I'm going to cut some of that off and re-sew that so that it'll be a little bit tighter. So I turned it wrong side out again and put it on the other foot with the sock, and I'm clipping it to show me about where to tighten up the heel. I'm pretty sure the heel's going to fit this time, so I went ahead and did the in and out stitch times 2 to finish it off. Okay, right side out now, and it looks really good, fits really good, it's not too tight. And so we're ready for the next phase, which is the flap. So I'm making the flap now. You can make the flap as wide as you want. I usually use about the width of my 4 fingers. And of course the flap has to be long enough to reach around the back of the moccasin all the way to the front on both sides and beyond the tongue a little bit. You'll see what I mean. Just squaring up the flap a little bit. Now while I'm at it, I'm going to use this flap as a pattern to make the flap for the other moccasin. You can also do this with the sole and the upper of the moccasin. Use the existing moccasin to make the pattern for the other foot. Of course, you have to reverse everything, which freaks me out sometimes. We're getting down to the end. We're going to clip the flap in place with the moccasin right side out. And we're going to clip the flap with the shiny side out, because the flap's going to be folded up when we wear the moccasin so that the rough side will show. Flap is all clipped in and we're ready to sew it using the in and out stitch times 2. And here's another view of the in and out stitch times 2 that we want to do on all of our seams. Okay, flaps all sewed in. We're ready to put the moccasin on and give it a test. Couple of things here. First of all, you see I'm putting the moccasin on my right foot, even though I cut it and designed it for a left foot. That just goes to show you that these moccasins are very forgiving, and you can wear them on either foot. After you wear them a while, you'll have a right foot and a left foot. Now, see how I am tying this thong. First, it goes under your arch, and you tie a knot. and it goes around behind your heel, and you tie another knot, just a single overhand knot. Now we come to the front, tie a single overhand knot, and then a double overhand knot, and kind of gently pull that tight. And usually that'll hold the moccasin, and it's pretty easy to get it untied when you need to. You can fold the flaps down if you want. I like to keep my flaps up. Hey guys, when you're done with your mock, you can coat the sole, bottom of the sole with glue just to give it a little extra protection and wear and tear, and maybe a little bit of waterproofing. Also, you can use that glue to seal your seams. I usually seal the sole to upper seam, you know, that one that goes all the way around the base of the moccasin. I rub in coconut oil on the top. But you can use that silicone spray and spray it that way, or you may have something like mink oil that you use. Your moccasins will just not be waterproof. Moccasins are not waterproof. So if you're going to rely on moccasins for a camping trip or a hiking trip, make sure you have a couple, a pair, maybe even 3 to get you going. Okay, that's my moccasins. I'll do another video later with a different kind of moccasin, which would be the center seam pucker toe kind of moccasin. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. If so, please subscribe to this channel, and more to come.